bold action hero stands, outnumbered by scores of henchmen. A hail of shots rain down around him, and yet, in the face of such overwhelming odds, not to mention probability itself, the hero manages to not only survive, but emerge almost totally unscathed.
What is this, some kind of a joke? I wouldn't even call this a flesh wound, come on.
I mean, come on! He's a giant Conan the Barbarian. How hard could it possibly be to hit someone who is? And why do they keep shooting at his feet? Maybe they know something that we don't know. Is he Achilles? Maybe the only chink in his plot armor is his heel. Maybe we are overanalyzing this. Perhaps their egregious inaccuracy is the fault of the Imperial Stormtrooper Marksman Academy. Greetings, good storytellers. I'm the Artful Narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. In the book, Little Movie Glossary by film critic Roger Ebert, this strange phenomenon was christened the principle of evil marksmanship, and defined thusly. The bad guys are always lousy shots in the movies. 3 villains with Uzis will go after the hero, spraying thousands of rounds which miss him, after which he picks them off with a handgun. But nowadays, this trope is possibly best known as the Imperial Stormtrooper Marksmanship Academy. Now, the Stormtrooper's propensity for poor aim is so legendary that the Mythbusters investigated this failing in an attempt to see if the speed of the blaster's projectiles was in any way to blame for the Imperial's inaccuracy. Tragically, this only further proved that it was the unsteady hands holding the blasters, and not the weapons themselves, that were at fault.
Inadequate! It's the only word for it. Let's review, shall we? I stand corrected. It's not only inadequate, it is embarrassing.
However, I am here today to vindicate henchmen everywhere by unmasking the real culprit behind this trope.
Oh? Zoinks! It's Mr. Carswell!
Actually, no, it is the writer, and sometimes maybe the director. Don't believe me? Then take note of the strange propensity movie baddies seem to have for nonsensically shooting the ground or other surfaces around the hero. This seeming inadequacy of the henchman's aim is more likely a byproduct of the cinematic nature of television and movies. For, if a director wishes to show the viewer that the hero is under fire, the fact that bullets move too fast to be seen necessitates that if the script calls for the hero to narrowly escape being shot, then said bullets must hit a surface near the hero to illustrate this danger, even if the limitations of the location mean that the shots just land at his feet. And while you can animate lasers or blaster shots flying close by the hero, this often only further emphasizes the staggering amount of projectiles that he is avoiding. And even setting aside these logistical concerns of cinematic narrative, the truth is that the hero's plot armor protects him, a fact illustrated in what is perhaps my favorite audio commentary, wherein one of the writers of Remington Steele reminisced about a time when he was discussing a script with Michael Gleason, the show's creator.
There was a point where Remington was being shot at on a beach, and he was saying, babe, how come he's not dead? I said, well, because he can't be hit. I know that, but why does the assassin miss? I said, because he's our hero. He can't die, and the note was, I hate inept assassins. And so, I said, but I've seen it on a lot of shows, and that was walking right into the trap.
Say that.
Yeah, ooh, that was bad. But that was like, you learn these lessons.
I think someone's shooting at us.
Why?
Because we're kissing. Someone always shoots at us when we're kissing.
Now, while we as writers may be at fault in the repertoriation of this trope, this also means that we have the agency to take positive and innovative action to better conceal the hero's plot armor. Here are a few examples of creative takes on the Imperial Stormtrooper Marksmanship Academy that either help to justify the hero's plot armor or instead take the attacker's inaccuracy and weave it into the actual narrative. In the Murder She Wrote episode Hannigan's Wake, A gunman seemingly fires at Jessica from across the street. The shot misses wide and spectacularly shadows a plate glass window. Jessica's friends believe this was an attempt on her life. However, Mrs. Fletcher is instead convinced that the shooter intentionally missed her, possibly in the hopes of drawing her deeper into the mystery.
You were a very lucky lady tonight, Mrs. Fletcher.
Oh, I'm not so sure about that, Commissioner.
Excuse me? Somebody did shoot at you.
No, somebody shot at a plate glass window. More for effect than anything else, I think.
Or we could take a page from the excellent 90s action movie Total Recall, where, in one of the final action sequences, Douglas Quaid, or was he Carl Hauser? Anyway, he uses a hologram of himself to draw enemy fire, allowing him to get the drop on the hapless henchman, initiating a game of cat and mouse, whence, although he is outnumbered, he uses his guile to outwit them, memorably even pretending to be the hologram at one point, thereby tricking them into not shooting him, whereafter he promptly dispatches them.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.
And finally, let us consider the particularly superb scene from Pulp Fiction, in which a man with a hand cannon gets the drop on Jules and Vincent and proceeds to unload a barrage upon them. Amazingly, none of the shots hit them, and while Vincent is not particularly impressed by their luck, Jules is convinced that this was nothing short of a divine intervention, and feeling himself called, decides to quit working for Marcellus and go where the spirit moves him.
This was divine intervention. You know what divine intervention is?
I think so. That means that God came down from heaven and stopped the bullets?
That's right. That's exactly what it means.
Now, all this aside, if you still wish to have your hero charge headlong into a hail of bullets and emerge without a scratch, there is nothing inherently wrong with it, so long as you realize that by doing this, you are relying heavily on the rule of cool, and may be at risk of not only invoking a cliché, but also straining the willing suspension of disbelief, unless the tone of your story supports such a daring display of bravado.
Hey!
You just not no fear.
We know stupid!
But if you are crafting a more contemplative narrative, the key is to recognize when you are unknowingly using this trope. For while the truth is that the hero is most likely going to survive until at least the third act, that does not change the fact that you, as the writer, should try to make it plausible that the hero could live through such dangers. For while it can be fun to have your hero pirouette through machine gun fire, you gain little by making the villains look inept. While, on the other hand, if you make it look like the hero's survival was due to her own wits and skill, then you have the best of both worlds. Villains who pose a real threat, and a protagonist who is not only capable, but a force to be reckoned with. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been informative, or at the very least, a pleasant diversion. Until next time.